Yes, excellent. Right. So welcome to our 9th webinar today, which is all about the marine topic. I'm flying solo today. I haven't got an Amy to help me, so when things go IT wrong, I'm just going to look at hopefully Nicola, and Nicola will be my wingman for the day. Hopefully.
Will be.
So today we're joined by Alex, Dan and Roshni, who are flood risk engineers. Nicola, who is our environmental engagement manager, and you've got myself. Amy did send a little text message this morning saying good luck on the webinar. So she's here in spirit. To be fair, she might be watching it herself and not telling me, so you never know. So we'll do some introductions properly. So Alex, do you want to introduce yourself, if that's okay?
Good morning, everybody. So I'm Alex Cameron and I work in the flooded and drainage team, and I'm a flood risk engineer. I've been at the council now for about 3 years, and I've been working with Lee over the past year and a half, nearly 2 years, on delivering eco schools projects that relate to marine and water topics.
Brilliant, thank you. And Dan?
Yeah, hi, I'm Daniel Coles. I'm flood risk engineer. Same with Alex. I started similar time at the council, and similar to him, I've been working with Lee on our topics relating to marine, but we run as the flood risk team.
Thank you very much. And Roshni?
Hello, everyone. My name is Roshni Jos, and I also work with Alex and Dan, but only been there for 6 months plus now. My area of research is sustainable drainage system, and that's what I've done my PhD and postdoc on. So I'll be presenting that topic today. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much. And Nicola?
Hi everyone, I'm Nicola Holt, the Environmental Engagement Manager. So I work in the Parks and Open Spaces sector of Leicester Council. My role is split between managing projects on the Riverside and the Riverside Corridor, and also managing a team of environmental rangers who run the LEV, so the Leicester Environmental Volunteer Programme. I'll explain all this later, but also in my own time, I am the local champion for Refill Leicester, so I run that as a volunteer.
Lovely, thank you very much. And I think everyone probably knows who I am. Fab. So just a quick overview for those that haven't been in our webinars before. So we're going to very quickly just cover off environmental education, eco schools, main part of our webinars around the marine projects, questions and answers, and then other opportunities as well. So our webinars are 10 o'clock every Wednesday. We've got one left next week. As always, we record them and put the PowerPoints up on the school's extranet, so people can access these afterwards this afternoon. During the presentation, if you've got any questions, just pop them in the chat box, and I'll pick those up as we go along. And then if people have got general questions, we can pick them up at the end as well. So a very quick overview of environmental education. So we support all schools in Leicester City through lots of different means of communication, lots of face-to-face events when we can, focusing on the Eco School Award, and Amy and myself particularly do work on energy and litter. So that's our main areas that we focus on. And then as we see from lots of the webinars, we do setting up connections with lots of other organisations, internal and external, for areas that we don't work on directly. Obviously very, very proud of our record with Eco Schools. And this number keeps going up every week for our green flags, which is brilliant. So we've now got 52 green flags in Leicester. So we've had 2 in the last week that have been submitted and successful. So that was Highfields and Wolsey House. So very well done to them as well. So yeah, so that's our green flag. 7 steps to the Eco School Award. And again, I'm not going to go through these in lots of detail today, but just as a reminder, 7 steps of setting up your committee, review an action plan, project work which you monitor, link to the curriculum, informing and involving lots of other people in school, and setting together your eco code. So I'm just going to jump through a couple of slides just in terms of the steps. So for those that want to go into and look at those in a bit more detail, and if you go back to our first webinar, which was the energy one, we spent a bit of time going through each of the steps, and next week, which will be how to submit your green flag, we'll go through them in a bit more detail to explain kind of how you need to make sure you cover each of those steps. So eco schools, as we all know, probably cover the 10 topics, of which today we're going to look at the marine topic. And again, that links really nicely to the water, quite often to the litter topic, and quite often to school grounds. So often there's a lot of overlap with the marine topic. Marine topic's been around, I think, about 18 months, 2 years now. And the feedback from eco schools is a lot of schools are submitting the marine as one of their topics. So lots of things that you'll see today hopefully will be useful for you as a school, and it'll give you a bit of a flavour of some of the things that you can get involved in. Just a quick reminder about making sure that you involve the whole school as much as possible. So it might be that you've got your eco team leading, but it's about sharing that and informing everyone about your work. Lots of things around kind of linking to the curriculum, how you might monitor that impact. So if you're doing things like litter picking, for example, in a water area, you might be weighing it, counting things, but things maybe around photos, lots of things to do maybe with surveys, about kind of what people think about areas if you're looking at marine as a topic, and obviously reflecting that in your eco code. So today we've got a number of projects that people are going to be talking about. The top ones are things that we've sort of been focusing on in Leicester, which Alex, Dan and Roshni are going to talk a bit about. And then we've got some other things that we're involved in and to do with our water fountain competition, and Nicola will talk about some volunteer opportunities that you can get students involved in on. So I'm going to pass across to, I think, Alex. Are you able to share your screen, Alex? Is that okay?
I will just do that now and just tell me if you can see it.
Excellent. I'm just going to escape mine and hopefully that will take over. Yeah, that looks good to me.
Okay, let me just reposition you. So just bear with it whilst it loads up. Right, so can everybody see that now?
Yeah, that looks good to me. Yeah, so I'll hand over to you if that's okay.
Wonderful. So thank you for having me here today. And like we've already introduced ourselves, me and my colleagues, Daniel and Roshni, we're going to talk to you about the marine/water topics and projects that we offer that can be undertaken by students as part of Eco School. So I'm going to do the first three. Then Daniel's going to do You Know Your Flood Risk? And we'll finish off with Roshni about sustainable drainage systems. So the first project that I would like to talk about is the Sea Starts Here. And now this is sort of a new and quite exciting project that me and Lee have developed. We'll be running it over the next 2 years. It's actually been extended because of everything related to coronavirus. So that's good news for any students that might like to get involved. And as you can see from the picture, it's really a project that focuses on the fact that our sea and our rivers, they all start in our urban environments when we relate them to cities and students. And it focuses on the issue of litter and understanding particularly plastic litter and single-use plastics, and how those dropped as litter in our urban environments can have very big environmental consequences in our seas, our rivers and our oceans. But not only does it contribute to environmental problems, it also is a factor that can increase the likelihood of flooding, and that's because rivers and streams, they can get blocked. And also we're looking to do this with around 20 schools per year, and with the premise that it helps raise awareness of these issues and it promotes a sustainable behaviour in our pupils, our teachers and our parents, and hopefully the wider community. So just to give you a summary of what's involved, the project is split into 2 parts. The first part is a welcome assembly, which is usually delivered by me, but it could be delivered by Lee or Amy, which introduces the topic I've just said. And then it's followed up with a stenciling session where we use semi-permanent spray paint to spray paint nice stencils around our drains that reinforce this message that we're trying to do, that the sea starts here. So it's a afternoon or morning session. It's run as a way to introduce the marine topic to your students. And it's usually, let's say, 2 to 3 hours. And we work with between 6 to 10 children. So I can do the assembly to everybody, and then we pick a group of between 6 and 10 to actually do the stenciling. It's usually the Eco Committee, but it's not restricted to the Eco Committee. It's up to the choice of the teachers. And then we spend the afternoon finding these drains in and around the school grounds and spraying these stencils. So it's quite a nice, easy introductory topic. And we've already done it at Overdale Infant School. We conducted a design competition, and they were the schools with the winning entries. So as you can see on the left-hand side, we've got our winning stencils. And this is an action shot of us doing it. And it was a really successful day. And just to cover it, it covers the water topic and it covers the marine topic. And hopefully you can have another day like this with you at your school and potentially get some of the parents and the local councillors involved. And as you can see, it went down a resounding success. So that's the first topic, that first project. So I'll move on to our second one. So our second one is yellowfish. Now it's similar, in a similar vein to that of Sea Starts Here, but it's as an extended 7-week project. So by undertaking yellowfish, it can work towards actually counting as a project for your marine and water topics. And so it, like I said, because it's a 7-week project, it builds on those key factors from the Sea Starts Here, so I don't need to repeat them, but it's more with a focus on pollution in general. So it's not just litter, it's looking about different types of waste and the impacts that those different types of waste can have on our water courses, and it has a particular focus on rivers rather than our seas, but we link it through the whole water cycle. I've done this at a number of schools. I've done it at a junior school and I've done it at an infant school, so it can be applied to any students between years 3 and 9, and it's got really good cross-curricular appeal because it links between history and geography, and it allows students to develop their skills, things for personal learning, thinking skills, etc. So what's involved? Well, as I've said, it's a 7-week project, and it starts with our project planning and with the eco board preparation. I come into the school and I work with the eco committee and the teachers to do this, and then the eco committee announce the project to the school. It's usually in an assembly or it's done by each representative in a class, depends what the school would like. We do a pre-project litter pick to get some data, then we design and put up our yellowfish posters, and we put them on the lamp posts around the school. We put them up and around anywhere in the school, and then we conduct our stencil design. And then we paint our yellowfish stencils around the school. And now we've got permission to do this in the streets and on the highway surrounding the school. So actually we can make it have a much bigger area. And we really encourage schools to try and engage with local community groups as part of that. And then we finish it off on the last week with a post-project litter pick. And we compare that against the first litter pick to see if it's had a difference. Has that awareness campaign made a difference? And like I've said, it's very similar to the Sea Starts Here. It satisfies the water and marine topics, but you can link it to litter as well. And then I finish with my final one I'd like to talk to you about, and this is Bincentives. So this is a different kind of project that focuses really on marine and litter environments, and it's developed by the Cool Seas campaign, and we've adapted it for delivery at schools in and around Leicester. I've not run this one as a project at any schools yet, but we have advertised it on all of the Eco Schools roadshows, so we're really excited. We did have some interest, but obviously because of COVID-19, schools are in a temporary shutdown position, so we've not managed to start our first one yet. So again, it's along the topic of increasing awareness with litter pollution in our rivers and our seas, and it's there to help. Oh, sorry, I just need to move you out of the way, Lee. So yeah, it's there to teach our students about sustainable litter management and help increase awareness of those impacts with a focus on the marine environment. And so the good thing about Bincentives is it looks to build on litter initiatives you've already got going on in your school environments. Now, I know a lot of schools already recycle. They do the crisp packet collections, they do different resource recycling, etc. So we look to build on that and integrate a reward system that promotes sustainable behaviour. And like I've said, it works towards quite a few eco-school topics. So what's involved in this? Well, Bincentives essentially is a reward scheme that you develop over a 7-week period where students can earn tokens for doing sustainable behaviours, for recycling litter correctly, etc. And then they can cash those tokens in for prizes. Now, those prizes are up for debate. They're agreed and decided with the school, but these could be things such as extended break times, discounts on trips, or extra house points. And so then over that period of 7 weeks, we collect that information, we develop a scheme, and it works towards these 3 topics. So We do really recommend, if you'd like to do a new litter or waste management project, that bin incentives is one to do. So hopefully I've covered those 3 topics quite nicely. I'll just hand over to Daniel now to tell you about our flood risk project.
Thank you very much, Alex. So I'll better share my screen. So hopefully you can see that.
Yeah, that looks good to me, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So as Alex said, it's great to have an opportunity here to talk to you about our topics related to the marine environment that we run. So the 4th topic that we run is called Do You Know Your Flood Risk? So as many of you may be aware, flooding is likely to occur more frequently and have greater impacts as a result of climate change. So we're trying to introduce students to what flooding is and how to be more prepared for flooding, and also learn about different types of flooding. We explain to students why we're talking about flood risk here in Leicester, because actually Leicester's been named in the top 10 cities in the UK in terms of surface water flood risk, so it's quite an important topic to think about. And we then engage and involve the students in activities to become more flood aware and flood prepared. So we've got an outline of the project structure. It'll be run over sort of a 6-week period approximately. So we firstly introduce students to the topic of flood risk and how to be flood aware. In week 2, we find out a bit more about the local flood risk in the area that the school's located in. And then the following week, we could potentially do a site visit or look at local parks, because a lot of our parks have got watercourses or actual areas which soak up water and allow for flood storage. So it depends on obviously situations with COVID and what's happening in the future, but that's potential that we could look at. And then we get the students involved in creating a flood plan for the school. So that's looking at how to be prepared for the school and what actions you need to take at the school in particular to being prepared for flooding. Then we can look at recording a video clip, so the students can listen to one that we had from back in 1968, I think it was, well, a long time ago, which is an actual radio clip, so the students could get involved in listening to that and having a go at thinking about what would happen in a real life flooding situation. And then the final week, we ask students to sort of write up and reflect on the project. So as I said, this relates to the marine topic, and it's looking at sort of our urban environments, but in particular our rivers and our streams, and sort of how we interact with that, and obviously how it relates to flood risk. And what we've done, we've not actually run this as a full project. I've just outlined sort of a plan for the project schedule and how it would run, but we've introduced it at 3 primary schools and 2 secondary schools in last year in Leicester, but we've also presented it at the Eco Schools Roadshow. So we've given some schools an introduction to sort of Do You Know Your Flood Risk, and we can provide more details if you'd be interested. And then I'll hand over to Roshni.
Thanks, Dan. So I'll try to share my screen now. Start. Oh, okay, that's not where I'm going. I can try that again.
That's all right, no worries.
I'm not sure where we're going at the moment, so I think so many of them coming back in. Is you able to see that now, or is it not coming to the right page directly?
It's still just loading at the moment, that one.
Okay.
It might be just a case of just sharing your desktop rather than the PowerPoint, because sometimes it does struggle to find it.
Yeah.
If not, the other option is I can probably share it from mine, Roshni, and then you can probably take control, because I think you're on the full Teams, aren't you?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Sorry about that.
That's right, no worries.
I thought we sorted it out earlier.
Yeah, it works in the practice run like it always does. Just check that that's loaded. Yeah. And then can you take control of that one, Roshni? Can you request that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That should now be, you should be in control.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lee. And sorry about that, everybody. Okay, so I'm Roshni, again, just introducing, and the project which I'm going to talk today is Sustainable Drainage System. So this is a new project. So what we are going to try and introduce is the rainwater management. So sustainable drainage systems, or SuDS, they are the rainwater management system, and they are mainly used to manage rainwater from where it falls. They try to mimic the natural drainage, and also they are soft engineered solutions. They help to reduce flooding, reduces pollution, and also increases biodiversity and amenity. I need to go to the next one.
Yeah, well, that just let you click, it should do. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so just give an idea about the topic. So we just have to look into natural catchment and urban catchment. So when the rain falls on a natural catchment, it's normally seep through and it allows the groundwater to recharge. But in an urban catchment, there's not enough space for the water to go through. So what happens normally?
All
Yes.
right, that was me.
Oh, okay. Okay. So in an urban catchment, when the rain falls into the roads or the pavements, it enters the drain. So what happens if those drains are blocked? Okay, that's what happens. Like, we need to be careful. If the drains are blocked and if there is no space for the water to go, that's when the flooding occurs. So this is a picture of one of the street in Leicester. So it's from our team. So it's actually, so as Dan said earlier, flooding is common occurrence in Leicester, and we need to look into that. We need to tackle it. So such are the techniques which are mainly used to control flooding in England. I mean, they also do reduce pollution and increases biodiversity, but in England, the priority is to reduce flooding. There are a number of such techniques available, but I'm just going to introduce a few of them. Okay, so the first one is waterbird. So you'll normally see them in individual houses, and they are to store rainwater, and you can use that for car washing or gardening after. Then second one is tree pits. Tree pits you normally see in the city centers, and they helps to hold the water for a longer time, and also they helps to improve the air quality in the area. So if you walk along the Leicester city center, try to find where you can find these pictures. Most of them are from Leicester. Okay, the third one is rain garden, and this is the only one you should be remembering after this presentation, because we will be doing this as part of this project if you decide to go ahead with this project. So rain gardens are shallow landscaped depressions. So they helps to control the rainwater, and also they helps to increase biodiversity and amenity. So it can be flowers or it can be vegetable based on what you prefer. So you can build any of them in your rain garden. So the fourth one are permeable paving. So these are blocks. Then you'll see the rainwater will seep through the blocks and it gets stored or it moves to the next management train in the SuDS chain. So you will normally see them in your car, like driveways or car parks. So you can, when you walk around in the city or in the housing estates, have a look whether you can see any blocks with some space in between for the rainwater to go through. So the fifth one is the swales. So they are shallow grassed vegetations, and they have a small depression which allows water to flow from one end to the other end. And the last one is the ponds, like retention ponds. They are mainly famous for the biodiversity and amenity it offers to the local area, but they also helps to treat the water and helps to reduce flooding at downstream of the catchment by storing water in the pond for a longer time. Next one. Can you try to the next one?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. So right. If you plan to go ahead with the project, so what we'll be doing is we'll try to build a rain garden. It's a 7-week project as other projects. So first week will be introduction, and the week 2 will give you time to do some exercise on the project. So try to research on the project. So week 3 will be a field visit. So we send students to spot permeable paving and water butts in the area or near the schools. So week 4 will be trying to learn more about the rain gardens, what materials to be used, and whether you want flowers or whether you want vegetables, and where in the school, okay, find an appropriate location for it. And week 5 is when we build the actual rain garden, and we will have help from park volunteers, which is Nicola's team. So they've done this before, and they'll come and help us to build our rain garden. And 6 and 7 weeks will be like a follow-up and monitoring the rain garden, and you can do the write-up. So sustainable drainage systems are the techniques they use to reduce flooding and also increase biodiversity and amenity. So in the eco school topics which are covered in this project are water and biodiversity. So if any of you are interested to get more information about the projects which we presented, the 5 projects from the flooding and drainage team, there are some useful resources. I'm sure these slides will be available to you later. Mm-hmm. And these are our contact details. Feel free to contact us, or we can contact Lee if you'd like to go ahead with any of these projects. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Roshni. That's great. So yeah, so lots of really exciting things there. Some really interesting things that have come out of our flood risk team in the last couple of years. And I know a number of schools have been involved in these, but you can see a lot of practical hands-on activities. And like a lot of the projects that we deliver in the city, it all links back to kind of our commitments around sort of the climate emergency and around our flood risk and our climate change kind of action plans. So this really gets our sort of children involved and staff involved about kind of what's been going on with some of these projects. So that's brilliant. Right, I'll go back to sharing my screen. But I will share my screen. I'll go back to sharing my screen and pass you across to Nicola then, if that's okay.
Yep, that's great. So hi everyone again. So we briefly introduced ourselves before. So as I said, I'm the Environment Engagement Manager in Parks and Open Spaces. So our team is responsible for running the Leicester Environmental Volunteer Scheme, but I also am the project manager for kind of the Riverside corridor as well. So yeah, next slide, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we also refer to Leicester Environmental Volunteers as LEV. So it's a scheme that runs a wide range of volunteering sessions across Leicester's parks, open spaces and on the riverside as well. So members can sign up to be a volunteer individually and go on those sessions and choose to sign up for which they like. But we also run sessions for groups, including schools, corporate and community groups. So sessions can be on land or water, like I said, and they range from litter picking, conservation work, or conservation projects, So as Alex explained already, the litter on our parks can end up in the River Soar or the Grand Union Canal, which eventually lead to the North Sea. During COVID-19, we've seen an increased amount of people heading to our local parks and open spaces, which is great. But we are finding that we are having a significant amount of litter, as you can see from that picture below. So litter that ends up in the waterways are not just people throwing it into the river, but it's also that litter that gets blown in, particularly sort of single-use plastics that are light objects that can get blown into the water. So although, as Alex said, we're in Leicester, our litter can have a worldwide impact, and it's important for us to think about this and educate each other to prevent our litter from harming wildlife. So this is where you come up with LEV. So your school groups can actually see and experience the impact on litter on our marine environments by joining us for a session with our trained and experienced environmental rangers. So you can actually come out on one of our boats on the river or canal. For example, we have our narrow boat, which is the Kingfisher. And during this time, you can learn about the river corridor and do some litter picking. Our environmental rangers have taken out a wide range of students. We've worked with special schools, and we do also have a boat, not the Kingfisher, but we have another boat that will allow wheelchairs to go onto it as well. So it's an opportunity for students to kind of experience that waterside that they may never have done before, and seeing that impact of litter and really hitting home about if you are littering, then the impact that can have. But as I say, our rangers are experienced on kind of all aspects on the riverside, so that you can learn a lot about it as well. So for more information about this, you can visit our webpage, or you can email lev@leicester.gov.uk. If you do visit our webpage, at the moment we've got a banner on it saying that our service is suspended due to COVID-19. We are still taking inquiries, and we've still got that contact through the email address, and we will start our LEV service as soon as we're able to do so and is safe to do so. So we're taking precautions with that. So that's kind of the LEV side of things. And if you could move on to the next slide, please, Lee.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Refill Leicester, the LEV is my sort of day job at Leicester City Council, and Refill Leicester is something that I run as a volunteer in my own time. So Refill Leicester is a scheme that was started by City to Sea, which is a charity based in Leicester, and aims to reduce plastic pollution at source by providing free tap water when you're out and about. So as briefly mentioned, I'm the local champion for this, so I kind of run this as a volunteer. So up to 12 million tonnes of plastic pollution is entering our oceans every year, and plastic bottles are the most common form of plastic pollution in UK rivers, which is then followed by food wrappers and cigarette butts, and these will all end up in the ocean. So also another point to note is that plastic pollution in oceans has worsened in current times due to PPE, and a Guardian report recently stated that soon there'll be more PPE in the oceans than jellyfish. So these figures are shocking, that the amount of plastic that we're putting into our oceans, and people need to be sort of aware of the problem, so that we can talk about it and to try and do things differently. So one way to reduce plastic pollution is to reduce our use of single-use plastics and switching to reusables. So this can be using a reusable bottle, coffee mugs, lunch boxes, and you can also refill products such as shampoo and other food products at zero waste shops. So Refill is a scheme in which local businesses and other, Refill is a local scheme in which local businesses and other buildings sign up as refill stations to enable the public to refill their reusable bottle with tap water for free without being a customer. So it prevents the need to buy a single-use plastic bottle when you're out and about, and it reduces the plastic pollution at source. Studies have also shown that tap water is better for you than bottled water, and it's 900 times less carbon intensive than bottled water. So in order to find these refill stations, and we've got a lot in Leicester City Centre now in particular, you can download the free Refill app, or you can look for a refill sticker in the window of a business. So if you look at the kind of picture of the window, the one underneath with Severn Trent on is a sticker you should hopefully start to recognise when you look out for them. Unfortunately, schools can't be a public refill station, and the reason for that is that public refill stations require any member of the public to be able to walk in and ask for a free tap refill. Schools don't have that facility because they're a school, but what you can do is you can encourage students to bring their reusable bottle with them and refill with tap water at school. You could also inform parents and colleagues about refill stations and encourage them to carry reusable bottles rather than buying single-use ones. There's also, as Lee briefly mentioned, that Eco Schools is running a competition for students to design the artwork for new water fountains. So Leicester City Council is looking to put a number of water fountains within Leicester City Centre, and students have the opportunity to design the bottle image behind all the water fountains, but also on information boards across the city. So the deadline for this is Friday the 3rd of July, but Lee will have a lot more information on this. So I don't know if you want to say any more about that, Lee?
Yeah, sure. So I think probably most schools have seen it's come out through the extranet and our e-bulletins and things, but you've still got another week and a bit to go with the competition. So this has been sort of sponsored by one of our big corporates in the city to put, I think, 8 in the first phase water fountains like these pictures up and down in the city centre. And as part of the competition, we're encouraging children to design what the back plate will look like. So the winning design will have their designed up and put on the back of each of the water fountains. And then 7 running up schools will also, their school will also have one of these big display boards put up next to the water fountains in the city centre. So not only is the individual children getting rewarded with their designs to be put on the boards, but then the winning schools will also have their eco credentials put up on the boards. So I've just last week had that agreement with eco schools nationally, that the boards will all be branded up with eco schools, and you'll kind of have some information on there about your school and what projects you've been doing. So not just water related and marine, but any other project you've been working on. So a bit like your green flag application. So we'll have some pictures on there and some text, some information. So if you've not already sort of promoted that to your children at school, whether they're in school or they're working from home, we're taking entries both ways. So we've had a number of schools that have submitted lots as a group, sort of scanned emails. We've also had, particularly from Sandfield, we've had about 20 odd, 30 odd, I think, individual entries from parents who've got their children to design them and then email them in individually. So either way works really well. And we're going to be judging those the week after that, and picking our overall winners and hopefully announce that the last week before term, so that sort of individual children know if they've won, and then we can start collecting information from schools to put on the display boards and things, and hopefully they'll be up in the autumn term, kind of obviously with a lot of checking of things, but basically we're hoping that they'll be up in the autumn term so that you can go and see those in the city centre. So that's kind of our water fountain competition. Is there anything else you want to say, Nicola, before I move on?
No, I think that's it. Thank you. I think just making people aware that, yeah, they can use a reusable bottle and tap water rather than single-use plastics, and having this competition is a great way for people to get involved and learn about that as well. Brilliant,
thank you. And I'm guessing probably as well, if individual eco teams wanted to write to local shops and things, that could be something they could encourage shops to participate in refill if they look on the website. Yeah, so at the moment I'm kind of running it on my own. I've been running it since January 2019. So with having a full-time job, there's a limit to how much I can do. Leicester City Centre has been really focused on, purely because that's where a lot of people do all go into. But there is obviously pockets around your schools that I may not be aware of. So cafes and restaurants are great for refill because they already have that sort of thing set up. But it's not restricted to those catering businesses. I've got some shops signed up as well. So if there are any near you, or you're interested in kind of doing that as a bit of a project to sort of for the school children to sign those up, then yeah, please get in contact with me and I can provide you with some wording of emails. I can give you the sticker to put in the window. Anyone can sign up a refill station. You just do it on the app. If you do that, that's absolutely great. It'd be great if you could keep me informed of where they are so that I can promote them. So I have the Twitter and Facebook page. So I like to let people know where the refill stations are for those members of the public, but also to kind of celebrate that those businesses are really helping with sustainability and the work they're putting into that as well. So yeah, feel free to contact me on the refill email address and we can kind of start looking at that. Or if you just wanted more information, then that's good too. But you'll hopefully start to see once you look out for the stickers in different businesses, there's quite a lot in Leicester City Centre. The app is great because it will find where you are in the country. So it's across the whole of the UK. It's also in other countries now. And it will show you where the nearby refill stations are. So it's a really good app to have if you're out and about, if you're out on a school trip or even just out with your family. You don't have to be buying bottles of water to stay hydrated. You can nip into these shops and just ask for a free tap refill without being a customer. So it's a great scheme to have in Leicester. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Nicola. So what I'm going to do now is just go on to a few other kind of either local or kind of national projects that people have maybe seen or not aware of, that link to marine. Some of these we've seen in the water topic, but I'm just going to repeat them just so people are aware that you can link it to marine as well. So Severn Trent, which is obviously our water supplier in Leicester and Leicestershire, do provide an education officer, so he can come into school, basic things like assemblies, but also they do interactive buses, which are brilliant. They call them buses, they are huge vans basically, but they are opportunities for students to get involved in practical ways of looking at kind of how we access water, how it's treated, how much water we use. So they can come and set those up on the playground, and that could be like a whole day for a whole year group, or like I say, you could just have an assembly with them, and they do everything in between. So that That's information about Severn Trent. They obviously are taking bookings, hopefully from autumn. But even if you're just interested, just to find out more, there's a link on there that gives you information about the sort of workshops and the visits they can do. I think they do a visit off-site, so you can go and visit a water treatment centre. I think that's in Leicestershire. But again, all those sort of details are on their website. And again, their sort of remit is about reducing the amount of water that we're all using. So there's lots of ideas and things about that they can take the message home to parents, as well as doing things in school. World Water Day is another thing that you can obviously link to marine, and that happens every year in March. So the UN do a number of resources and activities each year around World Water Day. So again, that's an opportunity to do a one-off activity in school about raising awareness of water, but it might be a way of launching a project or launching an activity, or it could be the end of a project where you're kind of doing a wrap-up. So it could be linked to one of the flood risk projects or the marine type activities, and then you do a focus day on World Water Day, which is the 22nd of March. So that day is the same every year, but obviously it changes what day of the week. So it's worth just keeping an eye on. Sometimes it does fall on a Saturday or a Sunday. So just keep an eye out for that. But that is another opportunity of sort of raising awareness of water. Practical action, we've mentioned a few times in a number of webinars. And Practical Action do all sorts of different STEM-based activities. And a lot of those are related to water and marine topics, whether that's local marine or international marine. So again, just have a look on there. Again, they link them to a lot of eco topics. So it's worth just having a look at those and downloading them. They can be done as like a whole day activity, or you can split that over a number of weeks. And I know that they've just recently developed some of their Practical Action previous activities they've now done as home versions. So they could be done as a homework activity or a summer project or a half-term activity. So there's lots of opportunities to engage with STEM in those Practical Action things. Water Explorers, another organisation, which I think Sarah mentioned when we mentioned the water one, and they do lots of activities related to water, mainly Key Stage 2 and 3, but they do a challenge toolkit, lots of resources that you can kind of just get up and use straight off the website. And again, one-day activities, or you can run it across a number of sessions linked to water. And the Marine Steward Council is something that's worth having a look at. So the MSc are the ones that probably most people know because they do certification on fish, sustainable fish. And it's worth, one of the things for a marine topic is finding out if the fish they served in school is MSc certified. And that can be as easy as just going to ask the catering staff. So that's the main thing that people know them for. But they also do have an education officer that produces resources from year 1 right up to year sort of 13, and everything in between. So the year 1s, there's a lot of kind of designing and colouring in activities. So you can see the little the octopus here. That's a design a sea creature that's sort of Key Stage 1, and then right up to year 12 and 13, where they've got real sort of sustainable ocean projects and policies and reviews and things that you can use with kind of right up to 6th form students. So it's maybe something you've not looked at before, but the MSc do have lots of resources on their website that you can use related to fish sustainability and the impact of that. So that's a really good one to sort of have a look at if you've not done already. And we mentioned it in, I think, in Litter, this one, but the Plastic Free Schools is another project which relates very closely to marine. So Plastic Free Schools is run by Surfers Against Sewage. So they're obviously very interested in marine as a topic. So they've produced the Plastic Free Schools Award, and that covers a number of areas related to marine and with litter on the land, which ultimately could end up in the ocean. Linked to Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2 and 3. Number of lesson plans they have on their website. And around the Plastic Free Schools Award, which again is totally free, could cover off either your litter topic or your marine topic. And in there are 5 objectives that you need to cover. So very closely, again, you could use that as an eco project. So objective 1 is develop an action plan. So that could be your eco action plan of what you're going to do. Objective 2 is a trash mob. So that is going and doing a litter pick, and that could be in the school grounds or outside of school. So again, that could link back to the environment volunteers, or it could be something that you just do in school, or it could be external. Objective 3 is challenging government, so that could be local government or national, to ask around or challenge around plastic waste, single-use plastic. So again, links very nicely to refill. Objective 4 is challenging industry, so that's asking businesses what are they doing about plastic and single-use plastic and waste and litter, and also kind of asking, it could be your catering in school, to find out how they could reduce plastic. So in primaries, we tend to not have much single-use plastic, but in secondaries, a lot of plastic is used on a daily basis that is just thrown away, whether that's knives and forks, or plates or trays and things. And then objective 5 is challenging yourself. So the idea is that the children set themselves a challenge to reduce plastic, and take that message home to parents as well. So whether that's around reusing plastic bags or not using plastic bags, the water bottles, the lunch boxes, all those kind of things. And if you complete all that, you physically get a pack of resources to use. You then submit very basic evidence that you've done each of those steps, and you become a plastic-free school. So it's not about getting rid of plastic completely, but it's about taking those first number of steps, and reducing 3 to 4 single-use plastics initially. And if those are big things like water bottles, plastic knives and forks, and even just things like, I know one school got rid of plastic bags when they hand out school uniform, then over a year that soon adds up as a lot of plastic, which ultimately could end up being litter, which then could end up in our rivers and oceans. So yeah, Plastic Free Schools, really nice award to work on. One that we've been asked a couple of times about is balloon releases. And I'll be honest, a number of years ago, we did a balloon release at school because we read up, and at the time it was kind of seen that, oh, they go up into the air and they break down. And actually that research was not very good, and there was a lot of misinformation in there. So schools, we do know, quite often do want to do balloon releases. I would strongly recommend definitely don't do them, for a number of reasons. So the balloons themselves, they kind of say they're biodegradable, and they probably are, but it might be 4 or 5 years before that biodegrades into nothing. And even if it does, it still ends up in tiny little pieces, a bit like plastics. In that time, animals eat them, they end up clogging up rivers and oceans. And we do know now that they're not good at all for the environment. Also, they're all usually attached with other bits of plastic and things. So really, we would recommend, and Keep It and Tidy, who run eco schools, really strongly recommend about not doing balloon releases. But lots of other ways that you can do celebrations. So whether that's like the Year 6 celebration, or it might be, unfortunately, if a member of staff or a student has passed away. But lots of the things that you can do instead of balloon releases. So whether it's like making planters, blowing bubbles, making a butterfly garden, lighting candles, growing a wildflower area, coloured lights and things. So there's lots of options instead of doing balloon releases. The other thing they mention is Chinese lanterns, and again, that's a real big no-no, for exactly the same reason that it produces a lot of pollution. Also the fire risk, especially in summer, that if it hits somewhere that's dry, we know that woodlands and other sort of grass areas have gone up because of Chinese lanterns, and potentially it could be several miles away from where you've released them. So we definitely would say, as part of the marine topic particularly, but in kind of across all topics, that balloon releases really are a bit of a no-no these days. But lots of other options to look at. And that maybe is a starting point to talk with children about kind of, this is something we used to do, or this is what some people still do. And it's maybe looking at what you could do as an alternative and getting the children to come up with some clever ideas instead of balloon releases. And then I just wanted to just mention something that we did a couple of years ago, which if we can get some funding, I'd love to do again, was a Riverbank party. So what the flood risk team, sorry, the Nicola's team before Nicola started, did a theatre production, which was all related to basically overfeeding animals and religious offerings that have got plastics in. So they put together a theatre production, which I think we had just over 1,500 pupils from kind of around the Highfields area. Went to the theatre, which was at Sparkenhill School, and they watched the production around kind of some of the issues around overfeeding animals and religious offerings that have got plastics in, to talk through some of those issues and kind of what they should and shouldn't be doing, which went down really well. And then they did a follow-up back in school where they were working with the children on some activities, and then the children did messages home to parents, quite often in different home languages, to kind of educate everybody around some of the issues we have on our streams and rivers in the city. around sort of pollution, which you wouldn't necessarily class as pollution, but certainly things like overfeeding animals causes problems for the animals, vermin and things. So this is something that happened, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, but it'd be great if we could do this again at some point. So it's maybe just something to think about, even just doing something in your own school around some of these issues. Theatre productions are really good, and even getting some of the children in school to come up with some of these ideas they could do around messaging to raise awareness of some of these things. That's really good. And then just the last thing I'm just going to mention is around our Litter Innovation Fund. So this was a project that Amy and I worked on earlier on the year, and one of our themes was around plastic pollution and not putting plastic things down drains and rivers. So we ran a number of things that included posters, and those posters were made into video clips, and those videos have been subtitled in top 10 most spoken languages in the city. So the idea was that we had big banners that went up around the city, around kind of some key areas where we know there's been lots of pollution and litter, and it meant that children and parents could find out a bit more about some of the issues that was related to our litter problems. So this is a campaign that we ran just before lockdown, but we're intending to run this again kind of in the autumn term. So if you're interested in running this as a school, we've got banners, and then there's lots of online videos related to lots of issues with litter, but one of them is to do with plastic pollution. So we've just kind of looked at doing this in one of our areas where we've had a number of complaints from residents around litter. We're going to be working with a couple of primary schools on this in that area. So that's something that we can run in the future. And I'm just going to play those couple of video clips just for people to have a look at. Can you just bear with me 1 second? So that was our first video that involved students from Rushmead Academy, and Alex kindly helped us with that one as well. Oh, seem to have it twice. So that one was looking at things that end up down drains, basically, and making people aware that anything that ends up in a street drain could end up straight in our river. And then this is our second one that was from Catherine Junior School, and this one was all about physical bits of litter that end up down drains. So that was our 2 videos that were part of that campaign. So if people want to have a look at them, they're just up on our YouTube channel. So I'm just going to finish off with a couple of things before questions. So just as a quick reminder, the UN Climate Change Learn Online modules are still available for teachers to use, totally free to access, and they do give you a print-off certificate at the end. And then also, if people are interested in grants and things, there's a link to a couple of websites for using grants and things as well. And now is the opportunity if people have got individual questions or anything, and I'll pick up through the chat box if there was anything that people have kind of asked as they've gone along. I'm just going to scroll through and just have a check. Or if people have got anything, by all means, do write in the chat box. So Sarah's asked, were there any costs associated with any of the projects?
So just quickly jumping in there, for the LEV sessions for volunteering, no, there's not a cost. We do plan in advance our sessions, so if you are interested, it's worth contacting us maybe a few months in advance. Also, our work is seasonal, so there's some things you might want to do that we can't do at that time, you know, things like bird nesting and things. But no, there's no cost with anything to do with the LEV sessions.
Just to build on what Nicola said, with the drainage team, all of our projects that we do, they're funded through our community engagement budget, so the schools aren't expected to pay anything. But obviously, some of the projects are slightly more expensive than others, so we have a finite budget, so it's just done on a first come, first served basis. Once the budget's up for the year, that's it. So we recommend you get in touch early if you'd like to take part in any of these projects.
Yeah, I think that's probably a top tip, I guess, with all the projects, that if you're thinking about maybe doing something in the next academic year, now is probably a good time to sort of at least have those initial conversations with people about what you might be interested in, and even just provisionally book things in on the assumption that we will be functioning normally sort of next year. But I suppose that's worth just having that conversation with people just earlier on. I don't think there's anything else. I think others were just general comments, I think, rather than questions. Just have a look. Yeah, just a few comments about where they've seen the amount of litter has been increasing in areas, which I think probably we're all agreeing is not great. Yeah, lots of things going on. So hopefully this has been quite useful for people just to know a bit more about some of the projects and find out about them, not just see them in the newsletter and things. I think that's the main thing. I think I was just going to ask for any of the projects, is there a sort of a minimum age from experience that you would say kind of 7 years up, so key stage 2, or anything in particular from any of you?
So for, I need to double check it, for our kingfisher in particular, if they are children under 7, because of the height on the boat, we don't want them to topple over while they're getting litter. So I think we've got a general rule of 7 and up. However, there's other things we can do, and our rangers are kind of really experienced in this. So don't let that put you off contacting us, because there's always something we can do. But I think for the kingfisher particularly, just for that, you know, the weight of a child who's a lot younger, we don't want them toppling over, although they obviously have buoyancy aids and as safe as possible. But as I say, our environmental rangers, they are the experts on these boats and on these trips, and they will talk to us about what's suitable and not suitable. So yeah, just get in touch anyway.
Well, thanks, Nicola.
From our perspective, we'd be looking to engage with students and pupils between years 3 and year 9, I would say. We can adapt the scale of our delivery to suit a younger audience or an older audience, and we can adapt the activities that we'd be delivering also to be suitable for that audience. But that's the key age range, I would say, is what we're focusing on.
Cool, brilliant. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, that sounds great. Cool. I don't think I had any other questions. Or if there was anything from anyone else, if you had any questions sort of generally. But I think this has come down. Yeah, sorry, Alex.
I'll just add, obviously there's a lot of information to take away, and as Lee said, these slides will be made available online. So if anybody has any questions that you can come up with in the future, you've got our contact details. Just get in touch and we'll be able to look to address or answer anything that you might want to ask.
Brilliant. So I suppose just kind of wrapping up, I think the key thing with the marine topic, with Leicester being almost as far away from an ocean or an ocean or a sea as possible, I think a lot of people don't necessarily think about the marine topic as being one to go for. But hopefully you've kind of had today a bit of a flavour of kind of the fact that we know that our streams and our canals and our rivers, a lot of them do feed into our oceans and seas around the UK. And it's about getting children and parents, to be fair, making that link between dropping litter or causing pollution in Leicester City and the fact that that will have an impact both on our local sort of marine and wildlife, but also kind of more widely, because a lot of the children do associate the pictures of the turtles with plastic up the nose and things. And actually that plastic straw could have come from a McDonald's or a takeaway shop in Leicester. And it's about making children and parents sort of aware of those links, really, and about how we can all make that difference, really. So I think we're going to wrap up there. Next week is our last webinar, which is about kind of how to submit for your green flag application. So there'll be lots of tips and ideas in there about physically how to do that submission, and some ideas around linking to the projects, how you could then cover the 7 steps within Eco Schools. As always, if you want to get in touch with either any of the presenters, you've seen their contacts on the webinar, or if not, just get in touch with Amy and myself through the Eco Schools website link, the Eco Schools email, or through our website. And obviously we're on various social media, and get in touch if you've got any questions or anything. So I think that is kind of wrapping up our webinar today. I'd like to say thank you very much to all our speakers. I appreciate it takes quite a long time to put everything together, having done 9 of these now. So thank you very much for Alex, Roshni, Daniel and Nicola for inputting into today's webinar. And like I say, if you've got any questions for anyone, just get in touch with them, and hopefully we'll see quite a few for next week on our last webinar. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank
See you all soon. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Cheers. Thanks then. Bye now.
Bye for now. Thank you, everyone.